So do you have any big plans for the holiday? Picnics, things like that? Nobody doing anything? Do you want to all come over? Irma Bombeck said, "You have to love a nation that celebrates its independence every July 4th, not with a parade of guns, tanks, and soldiers who file by the White House with a show of strength and muscle, but with family picnics where kids throw frisbees and the potato salad is iffy and flies die of happiness. That is patriotism." I'm like, yeah, I get that. I heard this little joke this morning that a teacher heard this little boy, and he was humming the Star Spangled Banner, and so she thought, great teaching opportunity. So she went over and she said, "Son, do you know what that is?" And he said, "Yep, it's an old baseball song." So, what I'm going to share with you today, over the last couple days, I've been in my vehicle about 6 hours by myself, so I love to listen to things when I'm doing that. So I listened to 5 of Dr. Roger Teal's July 4th talks from a Mile High Church. So it really inspired me, and so a lot of what you're getting today is of what he has shared. You know, there's been some really revolutionary ideas that inspired this nation, and we are a very young nation, and certainly in contrast to other countries around us. And a small group of people with incredibly powerful principles, so powerful and so timely that band of individuals, those men and women who founded this country, were willing to stand up against the greatest empire of their day, and pretty much of any day, and stand up for those principles for us. And so strong was their drive to anchor a greater freedom. So here are the words that all of us should know. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How many of us recognize those words? Hopefully. But what I love is that, you know, we are all created equal, and we are endowed by our Creator. It is what we have come forth into this world with, and they're claiming this for us, that we have been endowed by our Creator with these rights that can never be separated from us. And they are the rights of life, of liberty, and of the pursuit of happiness. And what an incredible legacy, and what incredible gifts that we have been given because of this small band of people who got together. Margaret Mead, most of you probably know this, said, "Never doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that has." So we have this over 200 years ago, these deeply devoted group of people that stood forward, and you know what they said? They said, "Now is the time, and we are the ones." Now is the time, and we are the ones. And so, you know, they gave, and they gave, and they gave. And ultimately, what we do know is, you know, they signed on that, and in that signing, they said they were giving their lives, they were giving their fortunes, they were giving everything to stand in this new free world, to create something in which you and I can be here today in a church and worshiping the way that we want to worship. And I love, because he shares a little bit about the 56 signers, and not all of them by any means, but just so you have an idea, 5 of them were captured by the British, and they were tortured before they died. 12 of them had their homes ransacked and burned. 2 had lost 2 sons in the Revolutionary War. 2 had 2 sons captured. 9 fought and died from wounds or hardships from the Revolutionary War. All of them had devastating things happen to them. And, you know, what kind of people were they? Well, 24 of them were lawyers and jurists, and they were people who were well educated. They were people of means, and they knew what they were pledging. I mean, how amazing is that they knew what would probably happen to them, but they stood so solidly on that principle and wanted this so much for us to have this United States of America that they were willing to give their lives. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Yes, and that is what we celebrate during this time. You know, we celebrate our independence as the United States of America. And what Roger says is the activated power of the heart can do anything. He tells a story about a woman. It's a parable of a woman who took her 2 young kids camping. And so the kids had a great day. They were tired. They went to sleep. She woke up in the morning, and she woke up before the kids. And so she decided she was going to take a little walk down by the river, just to feel the beauty of it with some silence for a few minutes. But as she was walking down there, she saw a bear. And she immediately just stealthily kind of backed up. And as soon as she was out of the bear's sight, she ran. Well, she realized as she was running that the bear was between her and her children. And in that moment, and those of us who are parents know, all fear left because the heart was activated. And I don't know the rest of the story, but I do know that, the story goes on to say that she was able to keep her children safe. But that's the point, is when our heart is that activated, we can do amazing things. We can do miraculous things. And when you get a group of people together whose hearts are activated in that way, just like Margaret Mead said, we can change the world. A small group of committed people can change the world. And so we are continuing this revolution of our hearts, amping up our heartfelt involvement as co-creators of this great experiment of the United States of America. Martin Luther King, we all know that he did the I Have a Dream speech, but he also did a speech at Riverside Church in 1967, and I want to read a little bit from what he wrote. He said, "I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society." Can I get an amen on that? Yes. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. On the one hand, we're called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, but that will only be an initial act. One day we must come to see that the whole Jericho road must be transformed so that men and women will not be constantly beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth. And it's interesting because it doesn't matter where you go back in history. You can go anywhere back in history and you can pull something up where it's like the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. It's all throughout our history. So this experience that we're in now, it's not something new. But here's kind of how I feel about it, is that there's always that evolutionary impulse of spirit, the evolutionary impulse of the creative mind, the creative essence that is yearning to be and express more, through and as us. And we really are its expressions. And so what happens in life is that if we're not allowing that expression, then things have a tendency to have some bumps in our road. And that's kind of like Spirit's call that, oh, hey, you may want to look, but we're not looking. And so, we kind of hit those bumps on a road. Well, Spirit's this evolutionary impulse. It's causing things to get a little bit louder. And now we're kind of starting to hit some roadblocks, and we're like, whoa, what's going on here, but we keep on going until it gets really loud. And it's no different in our nation. And I love, and I'm going to read something to you. It talks about, the individual and the nation and the progression. But I really believe that that what's happening right now is, there's lots of things out there that are really loud right now, wouldn't you say? And they're coming at us like, whoa! And there's a lot of things going on that I think for a lot of people, we're just sitting back and we're going, I just don't get it, I understand it. And really what it is, it's a call. It's a call for us. It's a call for us to wake up and to step into this evolutionary process and to become a part of it, because we can no longer sit back and think that somebody else is going to do it. We can no longer say, and I don't know about you guys, but I know, given the whole nature of things here for a while, I've struggled with, what do I even do? Who am I? I'm one tiny person, and I don't have any pull or power in the government, so to speak. And how do I feel about my country? What is it that I'm feeling about my country? And it was really through listening to these talks over and over that I got so clear that, this is my country. And I love my country. And if I don't love my country, then I'm not adding to it what needs to be added to it in order for it to flourish. If I am hating my country, if I am hating everything that's going on, if I'm talking bad about it, when you love something and that heart is activated, you are going to do whatever it takes to protect it, to make sure that all of its needs are met. And so I really believe that at this point in time, our heart needs to be activated in a big way, and we need to step deeper into loving the United States of America. It does not mean that we don't love the world. But we got some things going on here, you guys. And we cannot sit back and think it's just magically going to undo itself. Because guess what? It's we the people. We the people. And somewhere along the line, where the government was supposed to be listening to the people they were governing, it got messed up. And we can see that. That's not a secret. That's not a political view. It's just the way that it is. We've got a government that works very differently than just for the people. We've got representatives that literally you cannot get in to see them. They will not, you can't get them on the phone. They're not listening to what the people are saying. They wouldn't even listen to a different, it's just the way that it is. And we can get mad about it, we can get frustrated, or we can be proactive, and we can start standing for what it is that is important to us as a people. But it's so important for us to stand for it, to be for it, to do something. From the Center for Visionary Leadership, it says, just as an individual must struggle with the process of personality integration, bringing the physical, emotional, and mental components of their personalities into a coordinated working whole, so too must a nation become an integrated personality before it can successfully invoke its soul. In the long sweep of the evolution of a nation, it first develops its personality through self-centeredness and self-expression. Then it learns through hard experience the necessity of invoking a higher power. This is done by strengthening its national will and developing self-discipline instead of self-indulgence, evaluating the future results of current choices and willingly choosing to live by higher principles. The soul eventually overlights and controls the personality of a nation. If not, The nation will eventually destroy itself from within, as most self-centered nations have done over the centuries, as illustrated by ancient Rome. And as we look at our country being so young, we're kind of in the adolescent phase. It's me, mine, consumerism, more, money, power, and, our values. I mean, you look at our country. I've so often said, where are our values placed? But I'm going to ask you, because our country is a representation of us, you guys. And so we have to get clear on where our values are. And here's what I'm going to tell you about a value. If you say that health is a value, but you're doing nothing to make yourself a healthy person, it's not a true value. A value is something that you are actively engaged in. You're actively engaged in it. So, for me, one of my top values is God. Okay, what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, for me, that means being open to those nudges, being open to the guidance. But if I'm not going to follow that guidance, then that's not a true value then. Family is one of my highest values. And anybody who knows me knows that is a true value in my life. So it's like looking and saying, well, what is it that I value, and do I really value that? And if I want to value something, I need to start doing something to support and engage in that value. And so we can't look at our country as a whole and say, look at this isn't even lining up with what I value. Again, what does it always come back to? It always comes back here to me. And what can I do? Where can I clean myself up? I love this little kind of a joke thing where a monk goes to a hot dog truck and he's looking at what he wants, and finally he looks at the vendor and he says, "Make me one with everything." And so the vendor's kind of like, okay, So he makes him a hot dog with everything, and he gives the monk the hot dog and tells him how much it is, and then the monk hands him a $20 bill. And so the vendor takes the 20, puts it in his cash box and closes it. And the monk was perplexed, and he said, "Well, where's my change?" And the vendor says, change only comes from within. But it's fantastic wisdom for us for today, is that truly change comes from within. And we've got to clean ourselves up. We have to clean this up, you guys. We can look at everybody else, but you can't do it for anybody else. But you can be an incredible example. You can be an incredible leader by the way that you choose to interact, by the way that you choose to show up, by the words that you speak, by the ways that you get involved. And here's the thing, not everybody is going to be a quote-unquote activist in the sense of getting out there and doing things, but there's a whole lot of other things that we can be doing. I'm going to tell you, one of the most important things that you can do is you can vision. Because we talk a lot about what's wrong with our country, what's wrong with our leadership. And yet, we're told over and over, pray for those who you think are doing harm to you, bless them, do good for them. So are we praying for our leadership? Are we blessing them? And then what are we visioning? Are we visioning, how do we see America? Do we love America? I really want us to fall in love with America. And not to make us separate, but to make us better so that we can be more in the world around us than what we're able to be today. And, our world is calling for, it's so hungry and thirsty for compassion and connection. And, one of the things that the United States, one of its biggest weaknesses that people see is that we're isolated. And so isolated that most people have not even an iota of a clue of what's happening in humanity all across our planet. And a little bit of a scary thing is that our technology is isolating us from each other. You go out to dinner, to be with each other, and you got your phones out. We go riding in a park and we see people walking with their phones, and we're not connecting. And we have to connect. We have to see each other. We have to desire to be with each other, to get to know each other, to celebrate the diversity. And when I'm talking about diversity, I'm talking about the big picture diversity, but you guys, I'm also talking about the diversity of opinions and ideas. And if we're so closed off, and because somebody else's idea is so different from ours that we won't even have a conversation and we discount them, we're part of the problem. Because we're called to that higher place where we're willing to find what we're similar, what's alike, and maybe even seek to understand. Seek to understand what their thinking is and why their thinking is and why it's that way. But we've created and it really is, I think it's probably the worst in history, this division in our country that it's kind of scary to see how divided we are. And yet we're unity. Our teachings remind us of our oneness. Our teachings call us to a different place, call us to a higher place that says, okay, if I'm feeling division, if I'm feeling that, I got to do something about it. It's not about somebody else, it's me. It's what's coming up in me. What is there that's coming up to be healed? What's coming up to be looked at? So that I can be a better, clearer window of love, of connection, of oneness, of compassion, of kindness, of understanding. And this is how we know we change the world. Yes? Yeah. As we sit here today, you guys, we are so blessed to live in this country, that we have the freedoms that we have, that we can, like I said, we can pray whatever prayer we want to pray. We can, a female can be a minister, and I don't have to fear for my life. And we can go where we want to go in the United States, and freedom of speech. We have so much here in this country. We need to start focusing on what is good. And what is the law in that? What we focus on expands. It can't help but expand. So we start focusing on what is good and what is right. We do not bury our head in the sand about what isn't, but then we open ourselves up to proactive ways to be a part of the solution, And we don't sit back in a kind of a lethargic way. I want to share with you, because one of the values that was the soul of America is freedom. And he said, for some people, freedom means a call to an unchallenged lethargy, a kind of arguing for mediocrity or stagnation. Misinterpreted as license to just about anything. But in reality, freedom is not a privilege to license. It's a great, great, great responsibility. And see if you recognize this. How often do we notice attitudes cloaked as freedom that are really about entitlement, a huge emphasis of self-indulgence? But the soul of America is so much deeper than that. And we are being called to that deeper aspect, to the deepness of what the soul of America is, what the values of our forefathers were. That everyone has the right to life. Now think about that, to life, to a healthy, whole, complete life where all of the necessities are taken care of, where nobody is hungry, nobody is without a place to sleep, and that nobody is without health insurance to take care of whatever their needs are. The right to life and to life fully, the right to liberty, the right to freedoms, the right to be who you are, to express who you are, to do what anybody else in the country has done, regardless of your race or your gender or your lifestyle, or your different abledness. and then the right to the pursuit of happiness. Every one of us has the right to pursue happiness. And what are we doing? How are we part of creating those opportunities for everyone? Because it's easy to do for each other. But I really, really know in my heart that this time right here is calling us to get outside of ourselves and to become active in the world around us. Outside of these walls, outside of our walls at home, outside of the walls of our friendships, outside of the walls, and saying, yes, yes, because I love America. I love the United States of America. Do you love America? Turn to somebody and just say, I love America. I appreciate my freedom. And I am ready to be proactive. And I am ready to be proactive. You are the change. I am the change. We are the change. And here is the greatest gift of all. Everything that you need to be that change is already right here. Everything is right here. Namaste. Enjoy your Independence Day week.